I don't think we're lazy. I think we're overwhelmed, overextended, and overexhausted from constantly having to perform exceptionally well just to survive. This is for the woman who's been pushing, striving, and just being strong. But deep down, she's tired, really tired. A few days ago, I was in my room and I was sitting down and I just had this overwhelming feeling of just being stuck. I felt like I couldn't do anything, and there were so many different things that I wanted to do, but I just couldn't do them. And not because I didn't care. It's not that I didn't really want to get those things done. And it's not that I didn't care about my life or my goals or my kids or my fiance. I just had this feeling like I couldn't move. I couldn't push myself to actually get up and do something. Even brushing my teeth, even the thought of getting up and cleaning my face or doing the slightest thing to take care of myself felt like too much. And in my head, I kept hearing, "You're being lazy." I just could not get over that thought that you're not doing anything, you're just being lazy, you're wasting your time. But then something finally clicked. No, you're not lazy, you're tired. And not just a regular tired, babe, you're drained. This is not my first time being in this sort of place of feeling stuck, but at the same time, not having the motivation or the drive to get up and actually do something. I've actually been in this position way more times than I care to admit. And usually I'll just push through it, right? Because that's what you do. You keep on going. You're like, forget these feelings. We got things to do. Bills need to be paid. So work needs to be done, right? So just push through it. Just push back the feelings. Stop thinking about it and force myself to do things that I know deep down I really don't have the energy to do. But I finally got into a point where I can be honest with myself and say that pushing myself to the point of exhaustion doesn't work. It's the quickest path to burnout. We often confuse burnout with laziness because society doesn't give us a language for emotional exhaustion. Especially as Black women. Black women are taught to hustle, to perform, to take care of everybody, and just keep on going no matter what. Nobody teaches us how to recognize when we're actually feeling empty. We don't often get a chance to just be human. So then that forces us to internalize the lie that we have to do everything, do it exceptionally well, and never get tired. And when we can't do that, when we can't fulfill that stereotype, that belief, those extremely high expectations, when we can't fulfill that, we end up saying to ourselves, maybe I'm just not disciplined enough. Start over-criticizing ourselves and saying we're falling behind, we're not doing enough, and over-comparing ourselves to what we see other people achieving or look like they're achieving. Or worse, because this whole become your best self trend has really just monopolized the stereotype that Black women should be doing it all. We start comparing ourselves to our higher self and assuming that we should be doing more so that we can become that better version of ourselves. But the truth is, and I had to learn this the hard way, the truth is most of us are doing a lot more than the average person. A lot of us are doing so much. We do so much more than we will ever give ourselves credit for. We're doing so much, but we have these expectations that we should be doing even more. And it just leads to this feeling of being lazy and being incompetent when in reality, we're overloaded, right? We've already done too much and we're mentally and physically trying to force ourselves to do even more. Right? You're not lazy, babe. You're burned out for sure. And in those moments where it feels like you just can't force your body to get up, you have the longest to-do list, in the world, or at least it feels that way. Most of the time, that's done subconsciously. Your body is trying to tell you that you're running on fumes, or you're doing the most. And the productivity and the time sensitive and the higher self gurus are not going to tell you this. But you don't actually need to do more. You don't need to plan better. You don't need to make a longer to-do list. You don't need to be more specific with your tasks or set more goals. Oftentimes when you start feeling burnt out, it's because you need to rest. But most of the time when we try to rest, it's not actually real rest. And I can say that because that's something that I have personally experienced. Doing things that I think are actual rest, but it's not actual rest. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Scrolling on your phone for hours. My favorite show that'll help me relax. Laying in the bed, taking midday naps. All of that sounds like rest, but it's not actually rest. When you're scrolling on your phone, your mind is still racing, thinking about all the things that you need to get done, but really you're just distracting yourself from the things that you say you want to do or you want to do. And some may call that procrastination. I call it distraction and avoidance. I think using the word procrastination is just a fancy way of saying I'm not taking ownership of what I'm doing or what's happening to me. Oftentimes when we set these high expectations of getting so many different things done, and we get to a point where we feel like we can't do anything, so we decide to do something else that seems like it would help you do the things that you actually want to do, even though in reality, that's distraction. And there really wouldn't be any need to procrastinate ever if you actually have the desire to do something. And 9 times out of 10, when you make a list, the whole purpose of setting that goal or putting that item on your to-do list is because you actually want to do it. So to say that you're procrastinating because you're not doing the thing implies that it's something that you don't want to do, which is not true. Because you wouldn't set the goal if you didn't actually want to achieve the goal. The problem is, oftentimes we don't have the proper energy to actually do the things that we need or want to do. So let me tell you what would help with that so that you don't have to go through the same mistake that I did. Or if you have already, let me help you so you don't have to continue going through that cycle. Because I've been through that cycle. I've been through that cycle so many times, and I finally got into a point in my life where I can actually say I have broken the cycle. And what you really need to understand about breaking this cycle of overworking yourself and thinking that you need to do more and feeling lazy for not is that you have to honor and respect your body's need for rest. And not rest in a sense of taking a break or distracting yourself from the things that you want to do, but rest in a sense of actually physically doing things. And I know this sounds counterintuitive, but actually physically doing things that are not going to drain your energy, but actually rejuvenate and bring life to your spirit. No more emotional numbing, no more fake rest. But instead, you have to be intentional. You have to really sit with yourself and figure out what your body actually needs to feel alive again, to feel motivated again, to feel inspired again, to feel energetic again. And oftentimes, that's not scrolling on your phone. That's not taking a midday nap. And for everybody, it's going to be different. It may be getting in the shower and putting on some sad music and letting out a good cry. It could be saying no to something that you really want to do, or maybe things that people keep insisting that you do, even though you know doggone well you really don't want to do it. And sometimes it is actually doing nothing, but on purpose and with no guilt attached. That's the biggest part, because it is difficult when you have that mentality that you should be doing so much and doing it exceptionally well and being that way all the time. It is very difficult to sit and do nothing and not feel any kind of guilt or shame attached to it. Real rest requires listening to your body. And it's definitely not resting so you can be productive, because that is all the rage these days. I'm resting so I can be more productive. No, you rest because you're worthy of rest and care. Even when you're not doing anything, you're still worthy of resting. I definitely used to be the kind of person that thought that I had to have everything planned out down to the T. I would schedule my entire day, not because it made me more productive, because I was really in this state of figuring out how I can get everything done in the littlest amount of time that I actually have to get things done. And so I would come up with all these different schedules and different routines to try to get things done. And I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m. Nope, that's not enough. I need to wake up at 4 a.m. Nope, that's not enough. I'm gonna wake up at 3 a.m. so that I can get as much done as possible, so that I can be as productive as I possibly can. But you know, the reality of that is it does not work. All it did was make me even more exhausted. And it made me even more resentful of myself for not achieving these high expectations that I had set for myself. Because no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, I just could not be consistent. I could not get up every day and do all the things that I wanted to do. I couldn't get up every day and work out for half an hour, and I would really beat myself up about that. I couldn't keep a clean house every day. I couldn't work on my business every day. I couldn't keep my hair and makeup done every day, and I just really started to resent myself. But then I finally realized that I'm not actually the problem. The problem was all these high expectations that I was setting for myself. I wasn't being realistic with what I could actually get done. And I wasn't building my life around how I actually wanted to feel. I just kept doing things or trying to do things that I thought needed to be done in order for me to earn the love and respect that I wanted from other people. I wasn't living for myself. I was living for the approval and the validation of others. And I was just hoping that somebody would see all of this hard work. Somebody will see how much I'm doing. Somebody somewhere is going to appreciate it. And I'm finally going to feel the validation, finally feel like all the stuff that I'm doing is actually worth something. I was doing so much so that I could feel loved and respected and feel successful. I was doing so much because I thought that I had to do the most in order to feel those things, in order to receive those things. I thought I had to be doing exceptionally well beyond everybody else in order to receive any type of love or attention or affection or validation. Even though that still is not true. That's not the truth. That's not the reality. I don't need to work myself to death in order to be validated, in order to be worthy. None of that is necessary. I am worthy of all of those things, regardless if I conquer the world today or not. And I'm here to tell you, so are you. You are worthy of all the love, all of the attention, all of the affection, all of the validation. You are worthy of the rest. You're worthy of existing simply as you are, regardless of whether or not you conquer the world today. Regardless of what you decide to do with your day today, you are worthy of rest. You do not have to constantly prove your existence, okay? You are simply here to exist. And I'm telling you that because that's something I definitely needed to know and hear in order for me to break out of that cycle of constantly feeling like I need to overwork myself in order to rest. And now I'm finally in a place where I can give myself permission now to be soft. You know, to build a rhythm and not just a routine. I'm now in a place where I do things that honor my body. I do things that rejuvenate my soul, that give me life, give me energy. And not just doing things out of the expectation of being the best in somebody else's eyes. Like, I started taking up hobbies again. I started expressing myself creatively, not for any other reason than to have fun and to simply express myself. I'm not learning a new skill so I can start a new business. I'm not making art so I can sell it or show it off to anybody. I'm simply doing the things that bring joy to my soul, and I'm not doing it for anybody else other than myself. Nobody in this entire world ever has to see it because it's not for anyone else to see. If that makes sense. Like I said, I used to really think that rest was taking a nap. Rest was watching a TV show. Rest was scrolling on TikTok so that I'm not doing anything else. But I realized that what my soul needs is creative expression without limitation, because I have never given myself that. When I do, it feels like the world stops, and I don't know how else to explain that. That's not going to be the same reality for everyone else. But I know for me specifically, when I allow myself to just exist creatively without any expectations of any outcomes or whatever, I feel so at ease, if you will. Like sitting here doing my makeup. This I would not consider rest though, because I have turned this into work. But if I were just sitting here doing my makeup, no camera, no lights, just me and the tools in here vibing, that to me is rest. Because that lights my soul up. That gives me so much energy. It makes me feel so good. Taking out a blank canvas and just making whatever with whatever tools I have, with no expectations about how it's going to turn out. No thoughts on who's going to see it. No pressure to try to become a millionaire by selling my artwork. Just creatively expressing myself with no limitations at all. That is how I get rest. That is what rejuvenates my soul. And that is enough. So if you've been calling yourself lazy lately, I want you to ask yourself, what would happen if I stopped blaming myself and started taking care of myself instead? The truth is, you're not lazy. You're carrying too much with too little support and too much pressure to keep going on like nothing's wrong. And you don't need another productivity hack. That's not what this video is. You need rest. You need safety. You need softness. And this right here, doing your hair, putting on your lip gloss, being creative, showing up in your softness is not vanity, it's medicine. It's you choosing you again. So take your time, move more gently. You're not feeling, you're healing. And you don't need another productivity hack. You need rest. You need safety, okay? You need softness. So take care of yourself today, even if it's just being still. You deserve it. And if nobody's told you lately, I'm proud of you for making it this far.